The Detroit Pistons have been one of the worst teams in the NBA this season. It's mostly because of their rebuilding process, but also because they've been very unlucky. In particular, due to their guard, Cade Cunningham, the #1 pick of the 2021 draft, having a tough year and is now set to miss the season with a shin injury. In today's video, we'll go through all that and the other worst injuries of the season, starting with Cunningham's season-ending surgery. Cade Cunningham has had a very on and off season for the Pistons. He's only featured in 12 games and hasn't been in much action for more than a month now. It's been due to shin soreness, as described by the franchise, but it's certainly a huge problem, as Adrian Wojnarowski of ESPN has reported. The reliable journalist explained how Cunningham has decided to go for the season-ending shin surgery instead of playing through the pain barrier. It's a good decision to not risk his health, considering he's very young and has the entirety of his career ahead of him. Better to get things fixed rather than playing through the barrier and risking some other bigger injury concern. The problem is, though, for Detroit is the fact that Cunningham will be out for the entirety of the season. As per the timeline, the guard is expected to join up with the rest of the team by next season's training camp, and it's a major setback for the franchise in the midst of a major rebuild. Cunningham's considered the crown jewel of the Pistons, and it's going to be a big loss for the franchise, especially given their form with Cunningham. There isn't a lot of hope for any Piston out there. It's a big blow because the Pistons were hoping that Jaden Ivey and the #1 pick of last season could strike up a proper partnership and build some chemistry as the Pistons look to pick up some wins. But it seems their plans have been delayed by a year. Adding to that, Cade was looking good. Before his injury, the 21-year-old had been looking really good this season. Playing only 12 games, he'd averaged nearly 20 points, along with 6.2 rebounds and 6 assists. As you know, these are fantastic numbers for someone only in their second year in the NBA, and it shows that he's going to be a fantastic option for the Pistons once he does return to action. It's been a huge improvement on his rookie year when Cunningham struggled to get into a proper rhythm to start life in the NBA. In the first part of the campaign, he struggled quite a bit, having suffered an ankle injury in training camp, and there was a lot of criticism over his performances. Some even called him a draft bust, but the youngster put all that behind him and went on to average 21.1 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 6.5 assists in the second half of the season. That late run helped his number improve, and he ended the season with 17.4 points per game, 5.5 rebounds per game, and 5.6 assists per game. But that late run of form could only help him to third in the Rookie of the Year voting behind Scotty Barnes and Evan Mobley. But all in all, the Pistons would be delighted with his progress, and while this is a huge blow, they'll wait faithfully for their young star to return to action because the future certainly does look bright for them. After all, they possess one of the best young rosters in the league, and it could get better. Moving on, maybe Cunningham's injury is a blessing in disguise for the Pistons. Let's be honest, the Pistons were definitely looking to improve on their form, and this season was supposed to be the next part of their rebuild. Cunningham's injury will delay their plans by a season, but it's not like the front office in Detroit is pulling their hair out in misery. No chance. In fact, they'll look at this as a massive opportunity, as we've already pointed out that along with the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Pistons have one of the best young rosters in the entire league. They can use this season to cultivate the rest of their young players. Jaden Ivey is another exciting prospect, and the rookie is off to a decent start, averaging over 15 points and 4 assists per game. He also looks right at home playing for Detroit. Then you have third-year guard Killian Hayes, who has shown a lot of promise this season with the increased playing time he's received in absence of Cunningham. Jalen Duren is another rookie who has been tearing it up for the Pistons. This season, in the last 3 games, the 6'10" center has been averaging over 12 rebounds per game, while the likes of Isaiah Stewart and Marvin Bagley have been impressive in their outings too, and not to mention the obvious perks of joining the tank race. Also, the Pistons are very much in the tank race. While Cade Cunningham is a fantastic player and definitely the crown jewel of the current Pistons side, they wouldn't mind adding another one to the 4 now, would they? As it turns out, with or without their planning, the Pistons are very much in the the tank race. And with Cunningham out for the season, there's very little chance that they'll avoid being one of the 3 worst teams in the league. They have a 7-22 record, and this includes the 12 games that Cunningham played in. So one can say that it's only going to get worse from here, and there's a huge chance that the Pistons may opt to get rid of some of their aging superstars too. There will be a lot of demand for the likes of Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks, and if it means that the Pistons get some more draft capital and become an even worse team for the season, they'll accept it with open arms, because all that could potentially mean that the Pistons can land Victor Wembanyama. Now that would be something, wouldn't it? And can you imagine them next season with Cunningham returning and the likes of Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren into their second seasons, all alongside the extremely coveted Frenchman Wembanyama? It would feel like the perfect storm for Detroit, and this injury to Cunningham may not feel like an issue at all. Now, let's take a look at the worst injuries of the season. While we're talking about Cunningham missing the season, we can't help but take a look at some other terrible injuries this season. First up, Danilo Gallinari. The Boston Celtics won the Eastern Conference, and if they had some more luck, they could have been the defending champs too. But they decided to improve over the offseason, and despite Ime Udoka's suspension, the Celtics have been the best team in the league this season, and they easily could have been even better. They signed Danilo Gallinari, who had been waived off from the San Antonio Spurs, only for him to suffer a knee injury that will keep him out for the season. It is an extremely unfortunate development, and while the Celtics may not be missing him a lot, they could have been even more unstoppable with him. Then, LaMelo Ball. The current status of Charlotte Hornets superstar LaMelo Ball is definitely still out indefinitely with an ankle injury. Again, it's terrible news for the Hornets because the 21-year-old is a special player. The overall 3rd pick of the 2020 NBA draft has shown immense potential whenever he's played, but for now, it seems that he'll be missing a major part of the current season as well. Up next, Lonzo Ball. LaMelo Ball isn't the only Ball brother missing the NBA action. His older brother, Lonzo Ball, the guard for the Bulls, has been struggling with a knee injury, and he was already expected to miss the beginning of the season, but the progress hasn't been good. The official reports mention that he's expected to return to action in mid-January, but he could easily miss some more games because knee injuries are very tricky to deal with. Followed by Desmond Bane. The Grizzlies are one of the most exciting teams in the league, and despite Ja Morant's obvious explosion, Desmond Bane has been another player contributing massively. In the 12 games that Bane played, he's averaged 24.7 points, along with 4.9 rebounds and 4.8 assists on 46.5% field goal shooting and 45.1% three-point shooting. Unfortunately for Memphis, he hasn't played for a while now and won't be in action for at least another month. Coming in next, Brandon Ingram. The Pelicans, thanks to the return of Zion Williamson, are looking extraordinary this season. They're currently top of the Western Conference, but they easily could have had a better record than the 18-9 that they have. That's mostly because they've been without the services of Brandon Ingram, the star of the franchise for the last couple of years now, a consistent scorer who contributes to the game in every way. But he hasn't played since the 26th of November and isn't expected to return to action for a couple of more games. This is a shame because he's been in fine form this season too, averaging over 20 points and 5 rebounds. Not to forget Chet Holmgren. One of the saddest stories of the offseason was Chet Holmgren's injury. After being drafted by the Oklahoma City Thunder as the 2nd pick of the 2022 NBA draft, Holmgren was set to shine in the NBA season, but he suffered a foot injury and was ruled out for the rest of the season. It has been terrible for the Thunder, who have struggled for consistency and were relying a lot on Holmgren, but it seems the fans will have to wait one more season to see the number 2 pick in action. Lastly, Rui Hachimura. The 9th pick of the 2019 draft, Rui Hachimura has been a solid part of the Washington Wizards, but he has struggled with injuries recently, and after playing 16 games, the Japanese star hasn't featured for quite a while for the Wizards. There's currently no timescale on his return. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Cade Cunningham will be a superstar for the Pistons? And which of these injured players will you miss seeing in action the most this season? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.